and welcome to everyone that's here joining us. Our live coverage will be commencing shortly. As you can see, we're having a very unusual unveiling this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But with that said, we have a very exciting program for everyone. The guests joining us here on site are mostly participating in the program. However, we have a large audience that's joining us online based on the YouTube link that we've provided. I do apologize for sweating profusely. The sun caught me off guard. But with that said, we have a jam-packed program, as I've said. I will not be officially welcoming the guests. We have two senior officials that will be welcoming the guests officially. But with that, we'll now be jumping off to a snippet by the Managing Director, Mr. Petri Vaisanen of SAAO, and the SALT Collateral Benefit Program Manager, Mr. Sivuyile Manxoyi. Thank you.
I'm Petri Vaisanen, Director of the SAAO, South African Astronomical Observatory. So we're a national facility of the NRF, National Research Foundation. We're a research institute. We operate under the mandate of the DSI, Department of Science and Innovation. We do research, our original research, but then we also provide a platform or provide a service for astronomers both in South Africa and globally. So we have a twofold mandate, essentially. We train students. That's very much part of our core mission and core vision, to train PhD students, master students. They do their science using our own telescopes in Sutherland, but elsewhere in the world as well. We maintain that infrastructure. We need instrumentation. We need workshops, electronics, mechanics, mechanical, optomechanical, all of that, and that happens here in Cape Town.
My name is Sivuyile Manxoyi. I work for the South African Astronomical Observatory as the head of our SALT Collateral Benefit Program. This is essentially a science engagement division. So we conduct activities that are based on science education, science communication, science awareness, and we also involve in socio-economic development. Our target audiences basically are the general public, university students. So those are all different target audiences that we work with. The division essentially is based here in Cape Town and in Sutherland. We involve in teacher training, support and development. We work with various departments of education. We support the teaching of mathematics and science because there's a need in supporting teachers teaching a theme called Earth and Beyond, which is closely related to or based on astronomy.
Thank you very much for that address. We'll now be moving on to a video about the SAAO's Indigenous Astronomy in 2019, as well as a Starlore animation called Moon's Message. Thank you.
Moon's Message. In the beginning, Moon lived on Earth with all the other beings. She was wise and respected by all. One day, she had an important message for man. But who could be her messenger? Chameleon was nearby, so she asked him to deliver the message. As I wither and renew, so will you too. So Chameleon set off to deliver this important message. As I wither and renew, so will you too. But Chameleon was slow, and Hare overheard him talking in the veld. What are you doing? I am delivering an important message from Moon to man. You're too slow. I will do it. And before Chameleon could say anything further, Hare ran off with Moon's message. As I wither and renew, so will you too. Hare arrived where man lived and shouted, I have a very important message from Moon. Well, what is the message? I will wither and renew, but not you. Giving no time for frightened man to reply, Hare dashed off back the way he came. What a fast and clever messenger I am! He hurried back to Moon. Moon, I delivered your important message. And what was the message? I will wither and renew, but not you. What? You careless creature! You have delivered the wrong message! Exclaimed Moon as she swung at Hair with her walking stick. Moonstick struck Hair's top lip and it split open. To this day, Hair has a split upper lip to remind him to slow down and watch his words. And Moon now lives in the sky, shining brightly, providing a constant reminder of her message to all. As I wither and renew, so will you too.
How would you know how to dream if you do not look at the dreamland? And that dreamland is the sky.
Abantu bethu kudala banolwazi lweenkwenkwezi.
We use the stars to tell the time for initiation, for agricultural cycles, and many other things.
I have a radical thought that Africa is the birth of scientific thought.
Being the cradle of mankind, we were the first to get that connection with the night sky.
Unfortunately, many of our rich information went into grave with our forefathers, not documented.
Indigenous knowledge, in particular in Africa, is a knowledge that has been not documented. It's a knowledge that has been transferred from one generation to another generation.
Indigenous knowledge is in oral histories, it's in the spoken word, in song.
It's the knowledge that is learned through observation.
The stories that are told that come from the African continent about stars, the suns, the moon, any story was born out of people wanting to explain and interpret the happenings and the cultures and the realities that they observed around them.
When one accesses indigenous storytelling and song, one will find the scientific history.
I think it's important for young South Africans to be exposed to astronomy. Once they are exposed to astronomy, I think they do develop critical minds.
Many, many young people in our country or the continent or the world are facing situations where they are stuck and they feel like nothing good will ever happen in my life.
Astronomy inspires curiosity and encourages the culture of questioning and thinking.
When you look at the metaphor of what it means when people say look up to the stars, they don't mean wait until the sun sets and then the stars come out and then you look up. It's not about stargazing, it's about taking yourself out of a difficult situation and look to the stars and see what possibilities are out there. I really want to implore young people to look at this path as an amazing place to look to the future, to open a door and go to a place you never thought even existed. There's so much you can do to contribute to rebuilding the pride, the dignity of the African continent.
The knowledge of indigenous astronomy is the key
to be opening all of these wonderful wisdoms. And once they possess them, there's no stopping them.
Bring astronomy to people so that they can dream more. Bring astronomy to people so that they can be enlightened with the old wisdom.
Look up to the stars and there's no stopping the dreams that we can have or the desire to achieve in whatever professions we choose. I think that's where we need to be in our country right now or in our continent, because once you know how powerful you are, you have no desire to be like anybody else.
All right. So Moon's message, the animation we've just seen, is one of 3 animations that has been completed by the South African Astronomical Observatory. It's based on traditional Khoi and San Starlore or storytelling, and they will initially be provided in the language of Khoi Khoi Khoab, Xhosa, Afrikaans, and English, with the hopes to extend such offerings in the future into additional minority languages in South Africa. Now, with those introductory videos, I think we're going to go straight into our main program. I would now like to invite you all to stand for the singing of the national anthem. thank you for that very beautiful rendition of our national anthem. As mentioned earlier, we have a very unique unveiling today. Our unveilings up until this point have always been physical gatherings of 400 or 500 people. This year, due to the current COVID-19 pandemic, we've had to reduce it to a virtual unveiling. As you can see, the cameras around you are bringing this broadcast to an international audience. This is a very, very important occasion for us today. It is the bicentenary of the South African Astronomical Observatory as it turns 200 years old, but also it is the official unveiling of the SAAO as a national heritage site. So I thank you all for joining us here physically, but most importantly, we also thank you for to those guests who could not make it here physically and are joining us online. With that said, I would like to welcome the CEO of the National Research Fund, Dr. Molapo Qhobela, who will be joining us via Zoom.
Program Director, thank you for the wonderful welcome, and to all those that are on site, and really apologize for not being able to join you. COVID has not been kind to all of us. I really want to start by acknowledging our Minister, the Honourable Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology, Dr. B. Nzimande, the Honourable Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Mr. Ian Mthethwa, the President of the International Astronomical Union, who will be joining us today, Professor Ewine van Dishoeck, the Chairperson of the Board of SAHRA, Mr. Moses Mkhwenyane, and my colleague, the CEO of SAHRA, Advocate Lungisa Malgas, all other colleagues at SAHRA, at the National Research Foundation, and in particular, my colleagues at the South African Astronomical Observatory, led by the Director, Professor Petri Vaisanen. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, it is really my singular honor and privilege to welcome you to this historic event. Founded in 1820, the SAO is the national and continental epicenter for research in optical and infrared astronomy. Its primary role is to conduct fundamental research in astronomy and astrophysics. And by doing this, we also provide a world-class facility for scientists to also undertake that research. The SAO also promotes astronomy by sharing research findings and discoveries and participating in education and outreach activities to inform and enthuse citizens about physics and astronomy. You've heard that this is our bicentenary year. The SAO is the oldest modern permanent observatory in the Southern Hemisphere. So this is historical. Today, the SAO is a national facility of the National Research Foundation. It is a vibrant, modern astrophysical institution undertaking research to understand the fundamental questions about our universe. These include tracking the flows of natural elements from stars, in galaxies, to eventually enabling life on our planet and possibly others. The prevalence of planets around other stars other than our own, and studying small bodies in our solar system, asteroids that you would be aware of, as well as high energy transient events that you would be aware of, such as supernova. The Cape Town site where we are today hosts advanced workshops for technological development, while the Sutherland site in Northern Cape hosts the largest optical telescope in the Southern Hemisphere, the Southern African Large Telescope, commonly referred to as SALT, as well as a dozen other smaller telescopes. SALT, together with these other SAO telescopes, were instrumental in providing data for the most studied single astrophysical event ever, with the merger of two neutron stars, which were detected as a gravitational wave event in 2007, giving birth to what we now commonly refer to as multi-messenger astronomy. For the future, the vision of the SAO includes the concept of an intelligent observatory where the numerous telescopes and instruments on the Sutherland Plateau are networked together autonomously to respond to and study new events of the night sky that are generally way too rapid and numerous to be captured in the timescales of human reactions and decision making. And that is how we are already working with technology in the context of the fourth industrial revolution. What we have achieved in the past and what we aspire to achieve in the next 200 years has been through the tremendous support of our government as well as our partners, both locally and internationally. I particularly wish to express our appreciation to the Department of Science and Innovation, and on this occasion also to our partners, the South African Heritage Resource Agency. We would not have been able to be where we are without them. Science, colleagues, as you are aware, is a global endeavor, and astronomy is a very good example of the power of partnerships. And this has enabled South Africa through the SAO to host SALT, which is an international telescope, and for the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory, a sister agency institution to SAO, to host the SKA, the Square Kilometer Array. We're also particularly proud that the SAO also hosts the global office of astronomical development of the International Astronomical Union. Science, however, does not serve itself, but serves society as it is part of society. Scientific endeavor is about searching for the truth and our understanding of nature, of societies, and ourselves as humans. It is also about researching and bringing about changes in society through policy and action to the social order, the economy, and the environment. In this regard, the NRF invests in the communities in which we live and work. And here I am really pleased to be able to inform you that in addition to providing a community center with high internet capability, an ambulance, the community of Sutherland in the Northern Cape will also have an additional mathematics teacher, courtesy of the SALT board, and new bursaries for further education and training for Northern Cape students, courtesy of the SAO. It is investing in our future. It is investing in the people that work and live with us. We hope and trust that even more extraordinary discoveries and benefits will come from the observatory in the next 200 years. That is why we have chosen a theme of always looking forward, looking beyond, and we refer to it as Beyond 200. I thank you.
You may give a round of applause. And thank you very much again to the NRF CEO, Dr. Molapo Qhobela. We'll now be joining to a snippet from Associate Professor Shazrene Mohamed from the South African Astronomical Research Centre. Thank you.
I'm Shazrene Mohamed. I'm an astronomer at the South African Astronomical Observatory, and I have a joint position at the University of Cape Town, where I'm an associate professor. I work on stellar astrophysics. I'm a theorist. There are two types of astronomers. You have observers who do observations and they work with telescopes, and you have theorists who do models. We work with equations and supercomputers. I work with supercomputers and I model how stars throw off mass towards the end of their life, and if they have a nearby companion star, that companion can actually capture some of that mass, and if it captures enough mass, it can actually explode as what we call a supernova explosion. So at the observatory, we do a lot of different research. We have research groups, and we study things from the smallest scales, like planets, all the way up to the largest scales. For the planets, we're really interested in trying to find planets around other stars. We want to try and understand their atmospheres. We want to try and understand whether you can live on them. We're trying to look for Earth-like planets. And we use telescopes in Sutherland, like CALT, to look for these planets around other stars by dimming of the light that you'd get from a planet moving in front of a star. We also have SALT has this high resolution mode, which will also in the future be able to detect exoplanets, again, planets around other stars. On the larger scales, we look at galaxies, which are made of billions and billions of stars. They also have gas and dust. And the astronomers here are trying to understand, how do these galaxies form? How much gas do they accumulate? And they also spew out a lot of gas. So there's a cycle of collecting gas, accreting gas, and throwing off gas. The astronomers look at different wavelengths to try and really understand these objects. From the longest wavelengths, so at radio wavelengths, we have Meerkat doing this, and SKA will come and really give us an accurate picture of what's going on, especially at the high redshift universe, so very distant universe. We also have infrared telescopes like the IRSF in Sutherland, and we can look at the dust that's in these galaxies. And then we have SALT and higher energies, even gamma rays like with HESS, where we can look at what's happening at the black hole, what we call an active galactic nucleus, looking at the black hole in the center of galaxies. So with the facilities that we have here, we're really interested in putting together the telescopes in Sutherland into what we call an intelligent observatory, where they work together and they can automatically follow up these interesting and exciting objects that are going off in the sky. This is really the future of astronomy. We've made a lot of investments in astronomy in South Africa, and I think there are a lot of opportunities. There's so many problems we don't understand. There are a lot of opportunities to get involved, and it's a very exciting time for South African astronomy.
Thank you to Professor Shazrene Mohamed for that address. As mentioned before, we'll now be moving to the official introduction and purpose of the gathering from the South African Heritage Resource Agency CEO, Advocate Lungisa Malgas. Please join us on stage. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Apologies again for the delay. To our honourable ministers, Minister of Science and Innovation, Dr. Blade Nzimande, our Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, Mr. Nathi Mthethwa, the Council of National Research Council, the Council of SAHRA, in particular, Dr. Mphahlwa, who's standing in for our chairperson, Mr. Moses Makweyana, who could not be here today. The CEO of National Research Foundation. I'm trying to find the CEO of the Director of SAAO, the DG of the Department, Science and Innovation, that is here with us today, and other CEOs who are watching virtually. Our colleagues from SAAO, NRF, and SAHRA. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. As part of South African Astronomical Observatory SAAO's bicentennial celebrations, the South African Heritage Resources Agency, also known as SAHRA, is commemorating and celebrating the role that the SAAO has and continues to play, a significant scientific role locally and internationally. As the oldest permanent observatory in the Southern Hemisphere. Leading up to the bicentennial celebration of the SAAO, SAHRA, in partnership with the National Research Foundation, NRF, have dedicated their resources to celebrating the scientific achievements of the SAAO over the past 2 centuries. It is at this very place the Cape astronomers observed the first measurement of the distance to a star, the first photographic sky survey, the accurate measurement of the distance to the sun, developments in stellar spectroscopy, the determination of the shape of the Earth in the Southern Hemisphere, and the first accurate geodetic surveys of Southern Africa. Today, we commemorate that historical and scientific legacy by officially unveiling a plaque at the SAAO. The SAAO contribution has been highly significant in shaping and developing modern astronomy into the Southern Hemisphere. The observatory was established in 1820, and the suburb of Observatory, Cape Town, took its name. It was formed as the National Center for Optical and Infrared Astronomy in South Africa and continues to be a living site with more than 200 years of history and still retains prominence in the international astronomical community. The scientific contributions made by the SAAO have greatly contributed to our understanding of the center of our galaxy. The SAAO is also surrounded by a cultural landscape characterized by its great historical, social, architectural, environmental, and scientific value. The landscape has been associated with past events, persons, uses, community identity, and oral history linked to the First Nations people, the Khoi and the San heritage. The SAAO has communicated the ever-changing truth of the universe, and its cultural landscape holds deep roots in South African pre- and post-colonial history. Due to its scientific, cultural, historical value, we as SAHRA acknowledge and commemorate the SAAO as a national heritage site and are honored to be part of the bicentennial celebrations. I thank you.
Thank you for that very encouraging message, CEO. It is well received and appreciated. We will now be going to an address from the President of the International Astronomical Union, Professor Ewine van Dishoeck.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, on behalf of the International Astronomical Union, warm congratulations to the SAAO on your 200-year celebrations. It's impressive to see how South Africa, through the SAAO and SALT, has become an increasingly important player on the international astronomical scene. The IAU particularly values our collaboration on the Office of Astronomy for Development, located with NRF support on the beautiful SAAO grounds. Together, we look forward to another century of exciting science and using astronomy to make Africa and the world a better place. Cheers.
We will now be moving to our next item, which is a history of the site that we're at right now, and an address by Dr. Ian Glass.
My name is Ian Glass. I worked here for quite a few years and been associated with about nearly 50 years. But I've been very interested in the history of the entire observatory. It was started by the British Royal Navy in 1820, the idea being to provide time services for ships and to map the southern skies, which were very poorly mapped at that stage. First main building was finished about 1828. We had quite a few discoveries were made here. Mainly, the first major discovery was the distance to the nearest star. What was done here really was the first application of photographic plates to making catalogues of stars. Because photography just became sensitive enough around about 1880, when Sir David Gill was the head of the observatory. He was inspired by the picture of a comet that had been sent to him by an amateur astronomer. This picture actually showed stars in the background. So for the first time they realized that photography had become sensitive enough to take pictures of stars. So they started up a whole special telescope devoted to taking star pictures, and the first big catalogue of southern stars was actually made from this observatory.
Thank you to Dr. Glass for that address. We will now be moving on to an address by the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, the Honourable Nkosinathi Mthethwa. He has provided a message of support to this occasion, and we do appreciate his contribution.
Minister of Higher Education and Training, Science and Innovation, the Honourable Dr. Blade Nzimande, the National Research Foundation, Deputy CEO, Dr. Ngomani, South African Heritage Resources Agency CEO, Advocate Malgas, members of the South African Astronomical Observatory, fellow citizens. It's a pleasure and an honor to attend this auspicious occasion, marking the unveiling of the South African Astronomical Observatory as the National Heritage Site. And what a better time to celebrate this part of our country's scientific and technological heritage than today, as this prestigious institution marks 200 years of existence and contribution to scientific progress since its establishment in 1820. The oldest permanent observatory in the Southern Hemisphere is a source of pride and a jewel in the crown of our nation. For centuries, and particularly in our recent history, the South African Astronomical Observatory has put world-class technological innovation at the service of our nation and the world, providing scientific and research capacity, technical observation, information and public educational tours to students, and opening up the magic of the universe. In fact, amongst the 24 telescopes that grace the observatory host a number of belonging to international research institutes. The South African Astronomical Observatory has made a tremendous contribution to putting our country and what would have been town and province, known just to a few on the map in numerous areas, from the global innovation and technological inspiration it has become, to the tourism destination, welcoming stargazers from near and far. Its role in our country is far-reaching, bringing us access to technological progress, earning us a solid reputation as an innovative nation, and 200 years of heritage contributing to national pride for a winning nation. Our heritage as South Africans is often misconstrued and viewed only as being linked to arts and culture. Today, we celebrate and see a perfect example of just how wide and multifaceted our heritage is. Our country has had a long history of firsts and innovations that have marked the world, and it is important that we celebrate the scientific legacy along with the cultural legacy, the sporting legacy, the economic legacy, and all that has contributed to building our nation. Heritage is at the core of our nation building. It is composed of all different aspects of our country that we can share and be proud of, things that we can use to bring our people together and unite in pride. It is when we are able to take pride in our musicians, our sporting heroes, our institutions, our constitution and such, that nation building becomes a reality. It is what we share that can bring us together. Innovation and world-recognized science and technology are no exception. I'm particularly happy to note the importance that the observatory has attached to creating opportunities for communities and youths in its programs in an effort to contribute to equal opportunities for all our people. I look forward to seeing a growing number of South African youths joining the development and learning programs of the observatory and becoming our future innovators and astronomers. It is important that we use this observatory to demonstrate to them that they can dream and that they can literally reach for the stars. For our youths, knowing their scientific and innovation heritage opens up their imagination and beliefs with regard to what is possible, and the more they are exposed to technology and innovation processes, the more confident they will be in their future. We want every South African, in whatever sector they are, to want to contribute something positive to building the future heritage of our country and for generations to come. Institutes like the South African Astronomical Observatory at the service of the nation makes all of this possible. Our youths should know that long before modern astronomy, our ancestors practiced ancient or indigenous astronomy right here in South Africa and on the continent as a whole. It is their heritage, and it is thus both natural and fitting that this heritage has been sustained and modernized to contribute to serve progress. This momentous occasion of the unveiling of the South African Astronomical Observatory as a national heritage site is therefore a proud moment for all South Africans and will go a long way in propelling the culture of innovation that exists already in our country. I congratulate the 200-year-old observatory, the National Research Foundation, the Department of Science and Innovation, and all those who have contributed to growing this crucial part of our national heritage. I thank you.
And a big thank you to our Minister for contributing and making time to participate in this occasion. We will now be moving to a snippet from the SAAO Education and Indigenous Astronomy Department, as well as a snippet from Mr. Anthony Mietas from the Socio-Economic Impact of SAAO and SALT. If we can just move on to those two videos from them. Thank you.
Yini yona lena engivuse busuku ngithi sekusile kanti kusebusuku. Yini yona lena engangesihlabathi so nesingabaleki lese sasolwandle. My name is Buzani Khumalo. I'm an education officer here at the observatory. I'm training teachers in astronomy and science, as well as learners in astronomy activities and maths and science activities. So when I'm training teachers, we focus more in one of their science strands, which is Earth and Beyond. Earth and Beyond is part of their curriculum, and it involves more astronomy. While it involves astronomy, it also involves indigenous astronomy. This month of September is a heritage month. That is where we deal more with the indigenous activities that involves astronomy. So we go to them because there are too many to come to the observatory. We go to them and then we train them. They ask which part of astronomy in their curriculum they want us to do with them. We reach about 700 in provinces that are more rural. We get a lot of teachers. So sometimes we reach 1,000 of them. We reach learners, we go to their schools, we do their activities. Sometimes they specify which activities they want from us, or we compose our own activities to visit the schools and teach them about astronomy, the general astronomy, as well as the curriculum astronomy. We teach them about the solar system. We teach them about the moon and the earth, and also there are events that are happening in schools, like the Earth Day. We need to go there and tell them a lot about the earth, in terms, not in terms of geographical earth, but in terms of astronomy, earth. So we teach indigenous astronomy because indigenous astronomy is about more human and their relationship to sky. And also we first teach them about the astronomy that was done by the scientists some years back, different scientists, so how they develop their astronomy. And then we also teach them about the modern astronomy that is happening now, but it is related from the history of the astronomers in an ancient times, their discoveries, up to the modern astronomy that is happening now in South Africa. We usually tell them the stories that our ancestors were using when they are connecting with the sky, because some of the stories, they are fictitious stories, but those stories, they were encouraging our youngsters to look up into the sky. Some of the stories, they are using it to practice their cultures. Some they use it for agricultural purposes, some they use it for cultural purposes. They also use it for artistic inspiration, especially the traditional songs, as well as the traditional songs, as well as the poetries in the schools. They are having a lot of poetries that talks about the stars in the schools. But those poetries, when you listen to them, you could see that it dates back into the ancestors' time. And those, they are very much interesting stories. Balekani nonke nansi inkanyezi nomsila ikude kangakanani phezu komhlaba injengedayimani esibhakabhakeni benye inkanyezana encane benye inkanyezana encane awu nasi isimanga esabonwa inkanyezi awu nasi isimanga esabonwa inkanyezi.
My name is Anthony Mietas. I'm currently the Salt Collateral Benefits Program Manager up in Sutherland at the facilities about 50 kilometers from the community of Sutherland. So our department has three strategic pillars in our department. Very much the educational department, and the vision there is to influence the national curriculum with astronomy theme. So we have this Earth and Beyond that's part of the curriculum from grade 7 all the way up. And that's as a result of the influence that we had. And then we have a lot of educational programs, activities that we do with learners and teachers. And then as well, we're on the facility in Sutherland, we host a lot of school groups actually coming up to Sutherland and visiting Sutherland to experience astronomy in its full might.
To give another round of applause for our two speakers. So this occasion is quite unique, as I've said, because for the first time we've had two ministers address an unveiling. The reason being is that on the one hand, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture is responsible for the unveiling of this site, but the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Science and Technology is responsible for the SAAO and its 200 years bicentenary. So with that said, I'd now like to introduce the keynote speaker for today's occasion, which is the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Science and Innovation, the Honourable Dr. B.E. Nzimande.
Mr. Mthethwa, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Dr. Molapo Qhobela, the CEO of National Research Foundation, Professor Emma Bunes, President of Royal Society, United Kingdom, Professor Petri Vaisanen, Managing Director of South African Astronomical Observatory, Dr. Phil Diamond, Director of the Square Kilometre Array, Dr. Rob Adam, Managing Director of the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory, Professor Ewine van Dishoeck, President of the International Astronomical Union, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to connect with you virtually, marking this milestone occasion, the official unveiling of the South African Astronomical Observatory as a National Heritage Site. Let me thank the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Mr. Mthethwa, for participating in this significant occasion as we observe the convergence of science, arts and culture. What makes this even more significant is the fact that we are also celebrating 200 years since the founding of the observatory, which in itself is a noteworthy event. I would like to thank the South African Astronomical Observatory, a research facility of the NRF, which operates under the mandate of the Department of Science and Innovation, and the South African Heritage Resources Agencies for co-hosting this occasion and for inviting me. Founded on the 20th of October 1820, the Royal Observatory is the oldest scientific institution in the country. The campus is of international scientific significance and has been the subject of United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, that is UNESCO's World Heritage Site Report. It was officially declared a National Heritage Site on 21st December 2018 by the South African Heritage Resources Agencies in accordance with Section 27(1) of the National Heritage Resources Act. Over the years, the Southern Hemisphere's oldest permanent observatory has played a significant role in astronomy locally and internationally and has become, as it were, a living site. It offers an overview of the history of astronomy both locally and internationally, and today still retains its prominence in the international astronomical community. The observatory is not just a relic of history, but continues to play a vital role in astronomy and physics, with scientists from all over the world wanting to do research at the main telescope known as the Southern African Large Telescope, known as SALT. Located at the observing site, 15 kilometers from the small Karoo town of Sutherland in the Northern Cape, a 4-hour drive from Cape Town, the area gives astronomers in South Africa and all over the world access to our exceptionally dark skies. On a hilltop, 1,800 meters above sea level and far from Cape Town city lights, stand 24 telescopes of various sizes and form, some owned by the South African Astronomical Observatory and others hosted for international research institutes. The site is ideally placed in longitude between the other large optical observatories of the Southern Hemisphere in Chile and Australia, and this allows continuous coverage for time-critical observations. On its economic impact, while the Southern African Large Telescope is chiefly a research institution, the facility has had and continues to have a huge economic impact on Karoo, Hoogland area and the Sutherland community. Before the Southern African Large Telescope was built, there were typically a few hundred visitors to Sutherland annually, and there were only 2 bed and breakfast establishments. Now the town has become a tourist destination with 14,000 to 15,000 visitors each year and over 40 bed and breakfast establishments. This activity has provided a much-needed economic stimulus to both the town and the region. This development has led to the creation of 302 jobs directly and a number of other jobs indirectly. The South African Observatory, that is SALT, has trained and employed previously unemployed Sutherland youth as tour guides. South African Observatory remains the single biggest employer in the town of Sutherland, and both SALT and the observatory continue to utilize the Sutherland-based local companies for various projects. The South African Astronomical Observatory inspired the opening of a locally based planetarium, and this too has led to new jobs. The SALT Collateral Benefits Program, through support from the Department of Arts and Culture, has trained a number of youths on entrepreneurship and has also supported local arts-based businesses and informal craft markets. Through this project and working with Africa Meets Africa, creating opportunities for local actors and youth to feature in a movie called My Room at the Center of the Universe, an astronomy movie based on a boy inspired by SALT and the Sutherland dark skies. On human capital development, over the past 200 years, the South African Astronomical Observatory has undergone significant changes, ensuring that the institution transforms and contributes to growing a cohort of black and female scientists. When the construction of the Southern African Large Telescope, SALT, was approved by Cabinet in 2000, the astronomy community identified the lack of South African astronomers and extreme lack of black astronomers as the biggest threat to SALT and to any other new astronomy project. In response, the community led by the South African Astronomical Observatory started the National Astrophysics and Space Science Program in 2003. The National Astrophysics and Space Science Program takes students with a BSc in, for example, physics, through honors and master's degree to prepare them to start a PhD. The National Astrophysics and Space Science Program was originally based at the University of Cape Town, but since 2016 has also had nodes at the University of KwaZulu-Natal and Northwest University. From 2013 to 2018, the National Astrophysics and Space Science Program graduated 130 honors students, 65% black and 33% women, plus 55 master's students, 42% black and 31% women. Almost all the recent graduates are South African, many of them with their first degrees from historically disadvantaged institutions. The long-term vision of the National Astrophysics and Space Science Program is to establish a substantive pipeline of postgraduate students from honors to doctoral level to ensure that the demand for skills within the astronomy and space science domains, as well as by industry, is met in a transformative manner. In addition, since 2011, 87 students trained at the South African Astronomical Observatory and the South African Large Telescope, SALT, have graduated approximately 40% with honors, 30% with MSc, and 25% with PhD degrees. Of these students, 63 or 72% were black, 25 honors, 23 Master of Science, and 15 PhDs. The South African Astronomical Observatory offers students the opportunity to work with leading researchers on cutting-edge astronomy and instrumentation projects. These cover observational and theoretical aspects of stellar and extragalactic astronomy, astronomical instrumentation, and computer modeling. The South African Astronomical Observatory also ensures that its international partnerships include South Africa's neighbors and boast a rich diversity and culture of students from countries such as Rwanda, Uganda, Ethiopia, Mauritius, Sudan, Burkina Faso, Lebanon, Madagascar, and more. On community development, it is noteworthy to mention that while research is at the heart of what the South African Astronomical Observatory does, the organization continues to invest heavily in the community in which it is located. With the support of the Department of Science and Innovation, the SALT, the private sector, and other individuals, the Sutherland Community Development was established where learners access computers with internet to complete assignments and receive additional in-person tutoring and online instructional enrichment resources in a safe and welcoming environment. The members of the community also have access to the internet for services such as online banking. For the majority, this is the only source for such connectivity. The center provides childcare to allow mothers with children the opportunity to use the center's resources. The center runs several cultural, artistic, sports, and social events throughout the year, enhancing the life of the community. SAAO's research accolades are numerous, and some of the noteworthy highlights include the following. Since its first official journal publication in 1824, the observatory has produced almost 3,000 refereed publications, with 136 in 2019 alone. Observations made by the astronomers include the first measurement of the distance to a star, the first photographic sky survey, the accurate measurement of the distance to the sun, developments in stellar spectroscopy, the determination of the shape of the Earth in the southern hemisphere, and the first accurate geodetic surveys of southern Africa. In 2005, the SALT, a specialized spectroscopic instrument, was opened at Sutherland. It remains the largest telescope in the southern hemisphere. A very large telescope requires sophisticated, often complex instrumentation. A significant proportion of the South African Astronomical Observatory effort now goes into the development of new equipment, and the technical support groups are major activities involved in the construction of new instruments and frequent updates to older ones. In October 2017, the South African Astronomical Observatory and the Southern African Large Telescope SALT were among the 70 ground and space-based observatories that observed the cataclysmic explosion of two colliding neutron stars. Immediately after their gravitational shock waves were detected by the US-based Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory and the European-based Vigo detector. The Southern African Large Telescope and other Southern African Observatory telescopes provided some of the very first data in what is turning out to be one of the most studied astrophysical events ever. On science engagement, for the South African Astronomical Observatory, science engagement continues to be an important part of not only highlighting the work done at the organization, but as a tool to promote the importance of science in daily life. The South African Astronomical Observatory prides itself in the outreach activities that it hosts as a way of connecting and engaging with learners and members of the general public. The aim is to create more astronomy-aware audiences across the country and beyond. The research institution continues to take its work outside of the proverbial ivory towers into communities to make science accessible to all. I thank you all.
I think you can give another round of applause for that wonderful message by the Minister of Science and Innovation. As we move towards the purpose of today's gathering, which is the unveiling of the plaques, we will now be having a cultural item by Karimba Rimba, as well as an address by Dr. Itumeleng Monaneng. We will then be moving to the virtual unveiling ceremony. So I'd like to welcome you all to take a moment and enjoy the music from Karimba Rimba. Thank you.
is Itumeleng Monageng, and I'm an astronomer working at the South African Astronomical Observatory and the University of Cape Town. So I'm involved with the teaching, supervision, and research activities at both institutes. So my research is based on multi-wavelength studies of X-ray binary stars. So what we do here is we use data from various telescopes, including SALT and MeerKAT, to understand the different phenomena happening in these systems. And we also use theoretical considerations to understand processes like mass transfer, mass accretion, and particle acceleration. So the SAAO offers opportunities for students to work with leading researchers on astronomy and instrumentation projects. So these include different topics such as stellar astrophysics, galactic and extragalactic astrophysics, solar system and exoplanet science, and as well as computer modeling. So these research projects make use of multi-wavelength observations, including those from SAAO telescopes like SALT and the other smaller telescopes. Yeah, so there's a lot of research activities going on here. There's lots of opportunities as well to collaborate with researchers from other institutes located both in South Africa and internationally. Since 2011, 87 students trained at SAAO and SALT have graduated. Of those 87, 63 of them were people of color. Some of the staff members at SAAO are involved with the teaching activities in the National Astrophysics and Space Science Program, which is a postgraduate program that trains students into careers in astrophysics and space science, as well as instrumentation. So this entails honors degrees and master's degree. And there are also bursaries and scholarships like the SALT Stobie Scholarship, which has enabled a number of South African students to register for PhD degrees with SALT partners in the USA and the UK, some of whom have returned to South Africa and taken up positions over here. So the SAAO takes pride in the rich diversity and cultures of students that it attracts. So some of them come from various countries, including African countries, like Rwanda, Uganda, Sudan, Mauritius, Madagascar, and many more.
Thank you very much for that address. Let's give a round of applause. All right, I think now we've reached the point of why we're all here today. Essentially, we did come to celebrate the bicentenary of the SAAO, which will be happening for the whole week. But for today's purposes, SAHRA is here to unveil, or to officially unveil, the plaque for the National Heritage Site status of the SAAO. We are joined today by our council member, Dr. Luyanda Mpalwa, who will be joining us and doing the official unveiling. And if I can just get his assistant to join him on stage, just to assist him with removing the plaque. The 200-year commemoration plaque is going to be unveiled by the Director General, Dr. Phil Mthethwa, who will be joining us on the right-hand side. And I'd also like to invite Mr. Takalani from the Department of Science and Innovation, who will be assisting Dr. Mthethwa with the unveiling part. So with that said, as we unveil the SAHRA plaque, I will be reading the contents of the plaque while our council member is assisted by Nkululeko over there. As mentioned, today is quite an important occasion. It's a very special occasion for us, and this is the purpose of why we did come here today. And so without any further delay, let me begin by reading the plaque as it is unveiled by our council member. By virtue of the powers vested in the South African Heritage Resources Agency, SAHRA, in terms of Section 27.5 of the National Heritage Resources Act, number 25 of 1999, SAHRA has hereby declared on 21 December 2018 the South African Astronomical Observatory, formerly known as the Royal Observatory, as a National Heritage Site. The South African Astronomical Observatory is located on Observatory Road, IRF 26423 in Observatory, Cape Town, in East Falkenberg Psychiatric Hospital. West and northwest of the site is the confluence of the Black and Liesberg rivers. The cultural landscape that surrounds the site has great historical, social, architectural, environmental, and scientific value. The landscape has been associated with past events, persons, uses, community identity, and oral history linked to the First Nations people. The South African Astronomical Observatory in Cape Town has played a highly significant scientific role over time as the oldest permanent observatory in the Southern Hemisphere. Though it has been connected to the history of astronomy both locally and internationally for more than 200 years, it remains a living institution and retains its prominence in the international astronomical community. This site was unveiled on 20 October 2020. Please go ahead, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mpalwa. We will now be moving on to the unveiling of the 200-year plaque, and I'm joined here by my colleague who will be reading for the Director General. Thank you.
On this day, the bicentenary of the founding of this observatory, on 20 October 1820, we commemorate its scientific achievements over the past 2 centuries. For much of its history, this observatory was the major contributor to positional astronomy in the Southern Hemisphere. Observations made by Cape astronomers include the first measurement of the distance to a star, the first photographic sky survey, the accurate measurement of the distance to the sun, developments in stellar spectroscopy, the determination of the shape of the Earth in the Southern Hemisphere, and the first accurate geodetic surveys of Southern Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our colleagues from Department of Science and Innovation, as well as our council member for officially unveiling the site. We now have 3 more videos, beginning with a snippet from Mr. Kevin Govender. We will then move on to a snippet from Mr. Craig Sass and a snippet by Dr. Rosalind Skelton from SALT. The ceremony will then be concluded by Professor Petri Vaisanen. We'll then move on to a Q&A for our guests here with the media. So without any further delay, let us hear our address by Mr. Kevin Govender.
My name is Kevin Govender. I'm the Director of the Office of Astronomy for Development. So the Office of Astronomy for Development is a partnership between the International Astronomical Union and the National Research Foundation. It's hosted here at the South African Astronomical Observatory, and it's been here since 2011. So over that time, we've done a lot of projects across the world that basically look at how we can use astronomy to impact on development. Astronomy has lots of links to technology, to science, to culture, and we try and bring all that together and implement projects across the world to make people's lives better. So far we've funded about 160 projects in about 100 countries across the world. Astronomy for development is really about rallying the aspects of astronomy, the methodologies we use, the skills we have, the tools, the inspirational aspect of astronomy to make people's lives better.
My name is Craig Sass. I'm head of the mechanical workshop here at the SAAO. And in this workshop we build and maintain and support instruments for our telescopes in Sutherland. Within this division we have expertise in mechanical, electronics and software. And we work closely with astronomers to achieve the specification that
the instrument needs to achieve. As well as doing projects for SAAO, we also do projects for our sister company Temba Labs and the South African Radio Observatory. Some of the big projects we're working on at the moment are the MAXI instrument, which is a spectrograph for our SALT telescope. The MAXI has been designed here and it's been manufactured here. It's an extremely complex instrument. As you can see, we've got a number of complex machines here. They're all high-tech CNC machines. They're used to sort of manufacture the difficult geometries we need to do to make these instruments work.
My name is Rosalind Skelton and I'm one of the astronomers working on the SALT Southern African Large Telescope. So we run the telescope, we take care of all the operations, and I also do research on galaxy evolution. So SALT is one of our telescopes up in Sutherland. It's about 400 kilometers from Cape Town, and SALT is the largest telescope in the Southern Hemisphere. It's an 11-meter segmented mirror, which means it's made up of 91 segments. Each segment is about 1 meter across, and in total, the whole diameter of the mirror is 11 meters. So one of the advantages of SALT is that it's Q-scheduled, and that means that the astronomers at SALT observe the targets for all of the other astronomers worldwide who want to use SALT. And we do that according to the best conditions at the time. So you can pick and choose different targets depending on what they need. And that allows us to be really flexible, so we can observe things like transients, which are events that happen in the sky, very sort of dramatic explosions, for example, like supernova explosions. And so something that changes, and we need to figure out what it is and follow it up with a large telescope like SALT. So in 2017, we were able to observe the first gravitational wave event where we could see the electromagnetic counterpart to these gravitational waves. And this came from 2 neutron stars that merged within a distant galaxy. And so because we were able to pinpoint where on the sky that event had happened and the galaxy that it took place in, we were able to point at that with SALT and use the instruments we have available, the spectrograph in particular, to get a spectrum of the object. And this was one of the first spectra taken of this gravitational wave event. So that was a very exciting event, and SALT was a big part of it.
Thank you, Rose, there. And Honourable Minister, Higher Education, Training and Science and Innovation, Dr. Blade Zimande, Honourable Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Nkosinathi Mthethwa, President of IAU, Ewine Dishoeck, and then of course DG, Dr. Phil Jara, and Chairperson from SAHRA, CEO of SAHRA, Advocate Lungisa Malgas, thank you very much for coming here, and Luyanda Mthethwa, and all distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, and ladies and gentlemen. We're coming to the end of the proceedings, and it really is my pleasure to just acknowledge those without this would not be possible. And by this I mean both the event, but also the where we are, the observatory, without which this would not exist. And astronomy as a whole in this country would not be possible without the forward-thinking support of the government, and especially the Department of Science and Innovation. And represented here, and thank you again for coming in person, DG, and Takalani for taking care of astronomy in the country. This would not be possible without your support. Both SAAO and SAHRA, we are very, very grateful. And you support NRF, who we are part of, and there I especially want to thank the corporate NRF in Pretoria, who makes support of us in so many ways. In particular, my bosses, my direct line managers, CEO Molapo Qhobela, and my good friend and boss Clifford Ngumani. And on behalf of SAAO, for both DSI and NRF, I'd really want to say that we we endeavor on delivering on the mandate that you've given us of exploring the universe, and in doing so to inspire the society, to do good work in it, and benefit the society, inspiring, benefiting while doing what we love and what you support us for. I sincerely thank the SAHRA, South African Heritage Resource Agency, and again, thank you so much for coming here in person. This has been an amazing journey over the last months and couple of years to come to this point where we become a natural heritage site. It's an honor. It really is an honor, and thank you for that support and coming together of culture and science, like we've heard from many speeches today. I'd like to thank Ben for all the Ben Wansinga, our Master of the Ceremonies today, for the very practical and proactive help that you've given us over the years when we come to this point, and hopefully all of this will continue. I want to acknowledge the SALT board. So SALT board is not here in person now, but I'm sure they will be watching the recording online. A lot of what SAAO is today would not be possible without SALT. What we're today, how much they've changed us over the last two decades is because of the international collaboration we have with SALT and many other organizations globally. And as we heard earlier today, it's again that astronomy is a great example of cultures coming together to how would I say, to look for answers to really big questions which transcend just national or even nationalistic ideas, coming together to answer really big questions. Then finally, for this event, Daniel, his crew, this was a massive undertaking over the months, a year, and of course, the whole thing had to be reinvented when COVID hit. We had plans before, everything had to change. So a massive thank you, Daniel. And as we explore the universe, and maybe we'll come in contact with other civilizations at some point. We're looking for life in the universe. I'm sure they will have technical glitches as well. That's a very human part of our culture, and I'm sure it is quite universal in this universe. Thank you so much for bringing this together. Please have 2 weeks off. Not right now, because we still have the symposium to run for this week, but maybe after that. But your team as well. And there's too many people just to individually acknowledge, with coordinating from the steering committee within SAAO and our science engagement, your team and the executive SAAO. And then absolutely finally, I just want to give my heartfelt appreciation for the SAAO staff in general. As we work together, it's my privilege to work together with you. We're building really cool stuff to explore the universe, having fun while doing it, exploring stars and galaxies. You guys really rock. And thank you very much for attending the ceremony. Those of you here in person, hopefully you'll have a little bit of time to look around still. Thank you.
All right, my very patient guests. I think you've mentioned the technical difficulties we're experiencing from science, but now we're experiencing technical difficulties from the weather as well. So if I can invite people to please take the banners down. The wind is currently blowing them down. So whoever's responsible for banners, please come take them down. We have reached the end of our ceremony. With that said, we've come to the conclusion of today's proceedings. I think it has been short and sweet. Miraculously, we've managed to stay on time. It is 12 p.m. on the dot, if I'm not mistaken. Again, we have experienced some difficulties, which, again, this is the first unveiling of its kind, and I'm sure going forward that we will manage to avoid those type of technical limitations. But other than that, it's been a beautiful ceremony. I can't emphasize how hard Daniel has worked from SAAO, and I can't also emphasize how hard Palmira Dalmeida from SAHRA has worked in collaboration with Daniel. I do appreciate your contributions. I thank you all from SAHRA for coming here. I'm not going to repeat what Petri has said in terms of acknowledging everyone, but there will be a Q&A. So if all the guests who are part of the ceremony could please join us on the right-hand side. CEO, you know who, you know. CEO, please, you're one of those guests. And then we can have our Q&A. Following the Q&A, we will then have lunch. But at this point, I want you all to give yourselves a round of applause for a very wonderful virtual unveiling and the first of its kind. And with that said, I thank you all for participating here today. And again, thank you to all the support staff and the technical team as well. Thank you.